Welcome to the Brett Davis Podcast.
Well, hello, everybody. It's an honor to be here today with somebody that I admire and love the work that she does in the San Diego community. Sheriff Kelly Martinez is here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. And you're very involved in the community,
Right? Yeah, for sure.
and you know everything that's going on.
Well, I don't know about that.
What are some of the things that, because, and how long have you been the sheriff? I mean, you've been a sheriff since '85, but how long have you been?
Yeah, so I was sworn in as the sheriff on January 9th of this year. So I was elected last November.
Does it seem like soon, or does it seem like you've been doing it longer?
It's been a long 8 months or so. We've been doing a lot. I feel like we're starting to get some projects moving forward. So, yeah, I think in retrospect it went quickly, but it's been a pretty tough 8 months. So,
Well, I think when you went in originally, when you decided to run, you talked about some of the things that needed to be worked on,
mhm.
you know, and I think that you're finding a lot of information out and you've gotten to work on it. It's not always easy, is it?
No, it's not, and, I was really lucky that I had some people available that decided to stay on the department that I could, develop and develop my leadership team. I've got a really great executive team, some people that I worked with for decades, honestly, and they've decided, to stay with us for a little while longer because they're very committed to the mission and to the projects that we're moving forward.
What's the best thing about being a sheriff?
I just think the ability to make change, the bottom line is, with me, and I'm responsible for everything on a department ultimately, but at the same time, I get to make the final decision as well.
Well, I think you're very hands-on. You know a lot of people. You've been around. You've been doing this a long time. But
Mhm.
I would think about what I feel is an important in any. And I've talked to a lot of top CEOs, and you're a CEO of what you do.
Basically, yeah. Mhm.
I think it's all people skills. It's not so much what you say sometimes, it's how you say it and probably listening skills, I would think.
Yeah, I think that's really important, being able to not only motivate the people who work for me, but also to, engage with our community, understand what the community needs, and then also engage with the other elected officials and the board of supervisors and all of the other folks that I work with.
So you're putting in a lot of long hours.
Yeah.
You're finding a lot of new information. And what are the one things that you're working on right now that you feel the public's aware of, but you want to put some type of positive note on what you're doing with it?
Well, one of the things I ran on, public safety is our core mission, but we really do a really good job, I think, in sheriff's jurisdiction with keeping our communities safe. A focus for us the last several months has been our jails. We've gotten a lot of negative press about our jails, but we're doing a lot of really great things. Also, we've increased our medical and mental health care in our facilities. We've increased our medicated assisted treatment programs for people who come into our custody under the influence of drugs or addicted to drugs and substance use disorder. We're able to provide them with the medication they need. The withdrawal protocols are in place now. So we have a lot of really positive things so that we have better outcomes with the people who come into jail.
Well, I have a lot of respect for our law enforcement in San Diego, and I don't think there's enough that can't be done for them. I think you should have everything at your disposal and as much support as you can because I could never do that job. I would love to do that job, but I just it's such a great job, but it has so much impact on San Diegans and people as a whole in the country. But how do you deal with something like when you go into becoming the sheriff in San Diego and you have these challenges that have been going on within the prison system? Because I can't imagine. I would think a lot of those circumstances, and I don't know all the facts, and we don't have to get into them, but I would think a lot of those situations are people probably that are probably on drugs some way coming into that system already anyway. Probably there's some probably mental health issues, I would think. Am I leaving anything out?
Yeah, so, our communities can't be safe if we don't have safe jails, if we don't have places for people to go when they're not, safe in society. So people are arrested, and right now we have mostly high-level offenders. We don't have the low-level offenders that we used to have in the past, and that's over the course of time and a lot of legislation and different things that have happened. So about 4,000 people a day are in our custody, and most of those are really high-level offenders, people who've committed crimes like murder, robbery, rape, domestic violence, a lot of really serious crimes that they're facing. Y you know, so we're dealing with those types of people who have, uh, committed serious crimes, but we're also faced with a number of folks who are about half the people in our custody at one time are on psychiatric medications. So we're dealing with a lot of mental health issues, a lot of substance use issues. As you said, we've got about 400 people at any one time in our custody who really can't take care of themselves. They don't know to feed themselves or keep themselves clean, things like that. So we've got a lot of intensive care for those folks. So it's very complex. We've got amazing staff, not only deputies, but the nurses in our jails. One of them told me one day that anyone can be a nurse, but not that many people can be a sheriff's nurse. So
wow, that's a whole different subject.
Yeah. So they're really incredible. All of the folks that work in the jails, it's a system. We have 7 jails. And so all of those jails have different varying needs and individuals that are in our custody. But also I realize that most of those folks are going to be coming back into our communities, and I'd like to send them back in a better place than they came to us. So if we can help them with their substance use disorder, maybe help them with some job training, some schooling, some of those types of things. We're doing a lot of reentry programming. We have a culinary arts program. We have a landscape design program. We're doing a lot of things working with community to get people jobs and break down the barriers to get them jobs so that when they come out of custody, hopefully they don't come back.
So is this something new that the sheriff's department's doing, or has this been around?
It started really in 2012 during what's called realignment. The prisons in California were overcrowded, so the governor at the time needed to do something about that. So a lot of folks have been sent back to the local custody. And so at that time, some money was infused into the local jails to develop programs. So some of these programs started then. During COVID, they paused quite a bit because of we really weren't able to get people into our jails to work on these programs. And then people were because of COVID and all of the things going on. So we're reinvigorating a lot of these programs right now.
Now, is this a segue into the project that's going on in Old Town?
No, so what's happening in Old Town, I'm really...
That's right, it's different.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, that's really for our staff. So I have, and this started several sheriffs ago, the Honorary Deputy Sheriff's Association, which is our community members. There's about 500 community members that join part of this organization. It's a nonprofit. It's not connected to the sheriff's department, but they support us, and they're supporting some of our wellness initiatives for our deputies.
Well, I think it's very important, and I've always believed, and I've known all the chiefs throughout the years in San Diego and the different areas of law enforcement, and we've always talked about wellness,
Mm-hmm.
and that means a lot. I mean, it means all that's entailed with that whole thing, and San Diego is a very unique place because, first of all, everybody wants to be here because of the weather, right?
Right.
And there's so much to do here, but it's expensive. I mean, I've heard things from certain chiefs saying that, because being in law enforcement, I mean, it's a decent paying job, but we do live in an expensive city. And I've heard people say like, well, the biggest thing it really is affecting a lot of our officers and a lot of people is daycare. Is there a way maybe we could have daycare for our certain officers that are, maybe have kids and then they can't afford the daycare because it's an added extra expense, I would think. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Yeah. So, I grew up in this organization as a single mom. I raised my son while I worked night shift and call outs, and I was lucky enough to have my parents nearby. So they were always happy to jump in and take care of my son, which was phenomenal. A lot of our staff also have that opportunity. Some people are waiting later in life to have children.
Mm.
We recently, last year, started working with Tutris, which is a childcare application that helps our staff find childcare, and they get that free through our department. So, and that's for all of our staff, not just our sworn. So yeah, certainly childcare, you don't want to be worrying about your kids while
Right.
you're at work. So it's top of mind, I think, for most organizations, not just law enforcement, but I think everyone in every industry is worried about their staff and being able to take care of children.
So this system, it helps them locate, or does it help with the funding of it?
Yeah, so 2 things. We pay for the subscription to the service, and it's sort of like Zillow or something. If you're looking for a home, you could look for a childcare. They have over 200,000 providers in their system, and you plug in the zip code that you're looking for, and it'll bring up, it'll populate the map with all the different providers in that area, everything from in-home care to drop-in care to regular preschools, things like that. And then you can look at each one of those, see what openings there are, how much it will cost. They'll bill our flex spending accounts and things like that. So it really is a very robust system. And I think the city of San Diego recently went to it as well.
Wow. So we live in a huge city. It's growing.
Mm-hmm.
People say a lot of people are leaving, but there's still a lot of people coming in, right?
That's what I hear. I think it's evening out. Yeah, that's what what I'm hearing.
So with those challenges, what have you seen? Because you remember, I mean, you've been in San Diego for years. You
Mhm.
started in 1985, and there's been a lot of changes since then.
Yeah, I was actually born downtown, so at the Naval
Really?
Hospital.
At the Naval Hospital.
So I'm a native, yeah.
This is a great story. I mean, you are fully a San Diegan.
Right, yeah.
So am I, by the way.
Oh, great.
So we are a big city. I mean, how do we compare to cities like Austin, cities like, you know, in our caliber of population? How are we doing with our crime, you think?
We're actually a sheriff's jurisdiction. A lot of people probably don't understand what the sheriff's jurisdiction is. I cover law enforcement and public safety services for 4,200 square miles of unincorporated county of San Diego. Have 18 Indian reservations that I'm responsible for providing public safety services to, which is the most of anywhere in the country, any county in the country. I have 9 contract cities, in addition to the other duties that the jails and the courts and things like that. So in sheriff's jurisdiction, we have some of the lowest crime rates in the county, and the county of San Diego has some of the lowest crime rates in the country. So we're really doing well here. I know a lot of people hear things on the news, but when you're thinking of sheriff's jurisdiction, think of places like Ramona and Poway and San Marcos and Vista, Fallbrook, Valley Center. Those are all the areas that I cover, and they're all very safe.
Well, those are numbers we don't hear more about.
Right.
Correct?
And, yeah, I think so. Sandag's done some recent studies. Our violent crime rates and homicide rates haven't really increased much. The theft rates have increased a little bit in our jurisdiction, but for the most part, we're doing a really good job. I've got this morning kicked off the Crime and Intelligence Analysts Conference here in San Diego County, which is about 220 analysts are attending that conference this morning. I've got 35 analysts on my department, so we really believe in a data-driven, evidence-based approach to law enforcement and moving resources based on evidence and data, and that's really been effective in really informing us as far as law enforcement and being safe.
What's your relationship with our governor as far as what's going on? Because I mean, I know he sees everything and he's been around for a while himself. What's your take on how he's been as far as interacting with what's going on with our San Diego crime and our law enforcement?
I haven't had any direct interaction with the governor, to be honest. A lot of the legislators here locally, we've had some really good relationships with, and trying to tweak and adjust some laws that we didn't think were good. I was really glad that the canine bill was defeated and some of the other ones, because we really need to continue using canines in law enforcement. I think they're a very effective tool in de-escalating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love our canines.
Yeah, they do a lot more than patrol and tracking now. They also are really effective in identifying fentanyl and some other drugs. And we've got a terrific team down at the border that's been preventing a lot of fentanyl from coming into our communities just by detection and identifying those loads.
How deadly is the fentanyl as far as the dogs? They're shepherds, right?
No, they're not all shepherds. We have a whole variety of dogs, and it hasn't. We do have naloxone on hand for them, but we haven't had any issues with the dogs.
There was something a while back where there was an officer that there was a questionable if it was reality of what happened.
Yeah, I think what happened was when fentanyl first came on the scene, the DEA and others send out a lot of information bulletins about how dangerous it was. It could be absorbed through the skin and a number of other things. I think recently we understand and know that it's not going to be that deadly, depending upon how you handle it, and having the PPE and the other protective equipment on hand and using it the right way is going to keep us safe. And so we're doing okay that way.
Any idea with, of course, everything's stronger than it used to be. I understand. I don't know if that's true or not. I've been told that marijuana in the 80s is not the marijuana of today because it's stronger. It is a drug.
The THC levels are higher. Yeah.
And then I hear now they're also finding fentanyl traces in a lot of the marijuana.
Well, they're finding it in everything. I think fentanyl is certainly the biggest, probably public safety concern we've got right now. And we're all focused on education, harm reduction with the naloxone, but we also need to focus on enforcement. We know that if you cut off the supply, that we're going to have fewer overdoses, right? I mean, just common sense. And so that's really where we're focusing a lot of our attention, in addition to the other 2 pieces with the education of kids and the harm reduction by distributing naloxone.
One question, when I go to events or parties and, people talking about the latest things that are going on, fentanyl does come up a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear. But younger kids typically are indestructible. They don't have the same fear that most people do, I don't think.
Well, and I don't think they always know what they're
Right.
ingesting, right? And sometimes if a friend gives you a pill and says it'll make you feel better, then they don't really, sometimes even the friend doesn't know what's in it. So I really think naloxone needs to be in everybody's first aid kit. I think you just really don't know what's happening. I've talked to too many parents who've lost a 17-year-old that they thought was safe in their room, but died overnight of fentanyl overdose and things like that. So
How hard is it to obtain that?
the fentanyl,
No,
the naloxone, we distribute it, no questions
Really?
asked. Yeah, the sheriff's department does. So if you see a deputy or you want to go to a station, you can get it from us directly, and
This is something that I think people need to know.
Yeah, and we've been pretty public about it. But also the county is providing it. There's some vending machines now in certain places. I know many of the reservations are giving it out at their uh, different health facilities and things. It just became legal to buy it over the counter, although it's a little expensive. It's $44 or $45 for two dosages. But sheriff's deputy will give it to you with no questions asked.
Do you buy it from, you can buy it from them, or they just give it to you?
We just give it to you, and we
Wow.
leave it behind. Yeah, we started a law enforcement leave behind program last year because I thought it was so important to get more naloxone into the community, particularly for children. Children's Hospital has told us they've had a 1,600% increase in kids being admitted with fentanyl in their system. So
16 what?
1,600% increase.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're not overdosing, but they've got some quantity in their blood system, which means their parents probably have it in the home or somebody in the home does, and kids touch everything and put it in their mouths. And so that statistic I heard last year, and it just really motivated me to make sure the deputies had it available. We get it through HHSA in the county, and every deputy has it either in their patrol car. It's also at the station. We just leave it behind if we think there's a need. And there's a QR code on those boxes that tell you how to use it and how to call 911 and do all those things.
So is fentanyl taking over not just San Diego? Are we seeing an increase across the United States?
Yes, and historically, we've been the gateway for fentanyl coming across the border and going up through the rest of the state of California and across the nation. I've talked to law enforcement in Texas, and they say that their fentanyl that they're seeing is coming from San Diego. So it's something that we have the ability at this juncture to intercept at the border, and we are doing that. We had a surge with HSI, and the federal agents came here April and May and had a huge impact as far as increasing numbers of law enforcement seizing fentanyl at the border.
You never sleep.
I have a lot on my mind.
I bet. So why would one thing I don't understand, and like I said, this does come up at events and parties. Why would we find fentanyl in marijuana? How does that get in there? And why would the people that manufacture marijuana or sell marijuana? Because I mean, people can get it. Of course, now it's legal, right? But it's still being sold illegally,
Right.
which I can't understand.
It's very profitable, and it's you can sell it without all the restrictions, and you can sell it cheaper than the licensed marijuana. And so, people will go to an unlicensed dealer, not knowing sometimes that they're unlicensed because they look very professional. Really, it's always you have to think of drug dealing as a business, and it's some marketing strategies there, right? If they can introduce something like fentanyl that's very easy to produce with very little waste, it's a good marketing strategy. So
It makes a different high of some kind by having little traces of fentanyl in the weed.
I'm sure it would, yeah. But
I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, does it make sense to me? It
yeah.
seems like they're killing off potential long-term customers.
Well, fentanyl doesn't always kill people, right? It makes you become addicted to it, and then you're purchasing it every time. So it's not always deadly, but there's enough of it out there that's too strong or too large of a dosage that is killing people.
It seems like a lot of people are dying from it.
There are, yeah.
It's just scary. I like the idea that you're combating it, and officers can distribute ways to. And I didn't know about this. I don't know how I missed this, but I think this is very valuable for people in San Diego to know.
Yeah, I think absolutely. And there's really, like I said, no questions asked. If your son, your daughter, or someone is using fentanyl, it's a good idea to have it. Or if you yourself are a user, you should have it in the household and make sure someone knows how to use it to save you.
So what other great things are you doing in San Diego? And again, we are lucky and we are happy that you are our sheriff and the things that you're doing. I could never imagine what you go through on a daily basis, but I respect what you're doing. and I know how valuable what you're doing is. What are some other than the wellness program you're doing for your deputies and staff, which I think is phenomenal? What other things are you involved with that you'd like to share with the community?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. We've had some youth programs, particularly in North County. The
Mhm.
Respect Project has been in place for about 9 years. We've got some very committed and dedicated staff. And what that is are kids who are identified as needing some extra mentoring. Maybe they're at risk of gang involvement or some other things. We have a beautiful facility that was built a couple of years ago. And actually, during COVID, it got finished. And kids can go there for homework help after school. They can be mentored directly by deputy sheriffs. We've had people graduate the program and go on into the military. It's bettered their lives. There's a food pantry for families who might not have enough to eat. There's clothing. Some of these kids might just have one pair of shoes, and so they're afraid to get those shoes dirty, and so that restricts them from participating in PE or other things. And so, we can provide them some help that way. But it's really the deputies have told me what's been really impactful for them are some of these kids once they go on with their lives and become adults. Go into the military. When they get married, they invite the deputies back for the wedding or invite them to the christening of their child. And they tell story after story of how they made a better decision in life. They didn't get involved in a gang fight, for instance, because they remembered what that deputy had told them, and they turned the other way and go home. So we're making a difference with our youth and our communities. We hope to expand that program in South County and East County. We think that's a really great way, not only for law enforcement and kids to interact with each other and kids to, break down those barriers, but it also really saves some of these kids and builds their future.
I think it's great. So, also mentoring future potential sheriffs
Yeah, we
that
have.
maybe want to have a
Yeah.
nice job and a nice occupation. And like I said, we have family that loved the career that they had, and so much they even went back after they retired.
Yeah, and we have an Explorer program as well. So kids who are currently in high school, I think 15 to 19 years old, they can join the Explorer program, and they go through a short academy, and then they wear a uniform and ride along with the deputies and help them out. And it's really open to any kids. It looks great on the high school resume for college, or maybe as a pipeline to come into law enforcement permanently.
Well, there's definitely a need, correct? Right now.
Yeah, we need law enforcement deputies. We need detentions deputies, but we have 163 job classifications on the sheriff's department. So there's all kinds of job opportunities, everything from food service workers to booking clerks to just a whole host of things: nurses, CNAs, RNs, LVNs.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the sheriff's department has nurses.
I know a lot of
You
people
were
don't.
talking a little bit about that earlier, and how you're not just a nurse, but you're a deputy nurse, right? Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, you're a sheriff's nurse, and
Sheriff's
the
nurse.
thing that's really, people are a little nervous about working in the jails with that population as a nurse, but you have to remember a deputy's always there with you, and folks are really grateful for the medical care, particularly when they're very vulnerable. So I think it's a very satisfying and gratifying career. We also have mental health clinicians, so there's a great need for more psychiatric care in the custody setting. So it's a well-paying job, good benefits, and we're really grateful to have people who come on board.
I think one thing people don't realize when they're younger, because they have their parents, some of them, some do, some
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
Some come from single family homes. I came from a single family home as well. My mom took care of everything. Father popped in once in a while, but the mom was,
Yeah.
she was the person. But usually when you're younger, you don't think about the importance of having good benefits
Right.
with rising costs of healthcare. Am I correct?
Right, healthcare, and then also a good retirement system. You don't think about retirement when you're 23, but
No,
but it's
no.
nice to have that already built in, and a lot of people don't think that with government jobs, to retire and get a paycheck every month is pretty nice.
So originally, when you were one of those younger individuals, but you're still young, by the way,
Oh, thanks.
did you ever imagine that like when you're in high school, did you ever think, I'm going to be a sheriff?
I didn't. My dad was San Diego Police Department, and I was actually a waitress at the Denny's on Miramar Road. And
Is this still there?
yes, and as far as I know, and his team used to come in. His crew would come in, and they'd have coffee in the middle of the night. And one of them pulled me aside, and he thought I should get a real job and suggested I put in for the San Diego Police Department, which I did, but I also put in for the sheriffs at the same time, and the sheriffs hired me. And I haven't looked back. It's been 38 years, so.
What a great story.
Yeah.
Did you ever, so it never really crossed your mind?
No, it really didn't. Yeah, I don't know why I never did. I'm very much like my dad, I think, but
God bless him.
Yeah, he's been gone a long time now. He never saw me promote to sergeant. So
I'm sure he was very proud of you,
yeah.
and I'm sure he's looking down on you or down on you. Did I say it right? Yeah, he's looking down on you. He's not looking
I hope
down.
he's looking down.
He's not looking down at you. Sorry.
That's okay.
You don't have your gun, do you?
No, you're safe.
So here's another thing that I come across. I look at everybody as first of all, I think it's been a great interview. There's a lot of women out there right now that are looking for careers, and you are a phenomenal role model for women out there that you probably could answer a lot of those questions if they're thinking about maybe going into a career. I mean, you've been through it all, and I would think that, like you said, this is a great job. Why not have more women in the sheriff's department? I mean, we're seeing more of an increase in military as well, right?
Yeah, I think it's a great job for women. It's a great job for anyone, but I've had experiences. I was a deputy for 22 years. I worked our intelligence unit. I did a lot of undercover work all across the country. I worked our gang and narcotics units. There's a lot of opportunity. I think the sheriff's department's so large. We have a female pilot right now in our Astria program.
A female pilot?
Yeah.
Is it a copter?
Yeah. So we have a really a brand new air fleet. We're getting in 2 more helicopters this fall. So brand new Bell helicopters. So we're always looking for pilots, but we have child abuse, homicide. We have just so many opportunities, fraud, if that's your interest. A lot of youth programs, like I said, opportunities for leadership and management. So it's a great job. Like I said, I hope more women will come in. This week is also the Women in Leaders in Law Enforcement Conference that's being held here in San Diego. So over 2,000 women law enforcement in attending that conference. So it's really exciting. Every one of us as leaders in law enforcement support the women in this industry. I know that the sheriffs from all over Southern California are going to be here bringing their female leaders to the conference. So it's really fun competition for us. I've got over 100 women attending, and I'm hoping that I've got more than the Riverside sheriff, but we'll see what happens.
Riverside's pretty big.
Yeah,
right?
Riverside's big. And last couple of years, we've been challenging each other to have more women at this conference. But yeah, it's really a great time for anyone who wants to come into law enforcement, and I hope people will apply. It's sheriffs, recruiting. Just go online and you'll see our websites and see what's available, and the pay is really great. So,
I've gotten way more out of this interview. I'm sure there's more as time goes on that is going to be coming out with the sheriff's department. We'd love to have you come on as a guest again, or somehow. This is very valuable information. I think there's a lot of takeaways from this interview today that people weren't aware of, and I think it was a great way to get that information out. You did phenomenal, and I think that people are going to use some of this information today.
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope they have a better understanding of the sheriff's department and everything that we do. We're the largest law enforcement organization in San Diego County, and we also provide a great service to our communities, and we do a great job with all of our employees, and we support all our staff. So I hope if you're looking for a job, you'll look our way as well.
Do you do anything with drones?
We do. We have a drone program. We use drones primarily for search and rescue. We have a very robust search and rescue group. We have a lot of backcountry in San Diego County. A lot of people hike. You've probably seen some of the unfortunate deaths this year due to people going out to Three Sisters and some of those areas.
That's still shut down, right?
Yeah, that's our jurisdiction. So we're responsible for going out and finding folks when they get lost, and the drones help us with that. We also use them for crime scene documentation, and we use them for incidents involving our SED or our SWAT team. A lot of times those incidents require us to get an eye and still be safe, so we can send a drone in and feed that information back to us. So
thank you for your interview. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, because I know you've got a conference you've got to get back to. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the sheriff's department.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. There you go. Anybody thinking about a career being a sheriff? It sounds like a great opportunity and great benefits. And we got one of the best leaders in law enforcement in San Diego County and probably in the country, I think.
Oh, thank you.
I have a feeling I could be right about this. But anyway, thank you, everybody. And to my sponsors, everybody's listed out there. And we've got the information for the sheriff's department as well. The website. Good. Everybody take care, respect each other, be nice, and have a great rest of the week.